Well, well, well. Look who it is. The Dallas Stars and the Vegas Golden Knights. It's time for revenge. The quest for the Stanley Cup begins Monday night.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. The Stanley Cup playoffs are finally here. We had to wait for the regular season to wrap up in order to find out the Dallas Stars' first round opponent. And lo and behold, they draw the Vegas Golden Knights, the team that knocked them out of the postseason last year, the defending Stanley Cup champs. The storylines write themselves, and this series is shaping up to be an absolute battle. I cannot wait for it to get underway on Monday night. On today's episode, I want to share my general thoughts and feelings on the matchup with the VGK. I want to give you my top 10 best players in the series, and then I just want to geek out about the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs with you all. There is no better time, and all of the action gets underway tomorrow. Can you believe it? It is finally here. By the way, no official predictions on today's episode. I will share those on Monday. Over the weekend, we plan to record a special crossover edition with Locked On VGK, and I will share my official predictions on Monday's episode. So be on the lookout for that. And of course, Monday is game one of this series between the Stars and Golden Knights. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. Join your friends and download Monopoly Go. It is free on the App Store or Google Play Store. It can feel a bit harsh, Stars fans. I can agree with you that the reward for the Dallas Stars winning the Western Conference, winning the Central Division, is having to take on the Vegas Golden Knights. I put out a poll a few days ago on the Locked On Stars Twitter, and the overwhelming majority of you would have rather faced the Los Angeles Kings. And I would co-sign that, but I would also argue that there is no better time to take on the Vegas Golden Knights than right now. Right now in the first round. The Vegas Golden Knights feel like a team, if they win a round, if they get the ball rolling, will be very, very dangerous down the line. And they haven't played the most consistent hockey this season. They've stumbled for the majority of the year outside the first 45 days of the season, where it looked like they were just going to run the table once again. This is the time to take down the Golden Knights. A chance at revenge for the Dallas Stars. Pete DeBoer against his old club. For my money, Pete DeBoer outcoached the first two rounds of last year's playoffs against the Kraken and against the Minnesota Wild, but he fell short against Butch Cassidy and the Vegas Golden Knights. Can he make the right adjustments? Can he help lead the Stars to victory? Jamie Benn, the captain, who lost his cool in last year's Western Conference final. He was out for 2 games. Of course, the Stars won those games, but can he bounce back? Can he be the leader that the Stars need? You also have Noah Hanifin versus Chris Tanev, the 2 Calgary Flames defensemen that were both added to their specific rosters for this time, for the Stanley Cup playoffs. What kind of impact will they have? Mark Stone, his inevitable return to the Vegas Golden Knights. He's missed the last few months with an injury, but he has been skating. And yeah, he should be good to go. their captain returns to join the fight. There is just so much goodness wrapped up in this series between the Dallas Stars and Vegas Golden Knights. And I think there is no better time for the Stars to take on Vegas. First off, the Dallas Stars are in a much better spot. They are much more suited to take on this battle this year than they were last. And that is no shock. They are a much deeper team, especially on the back end. They have 4 lines that can score, 4 lines that can contribute. You add Chris Tanev to the mix, you have some depth on the back end. My real key, especially in the first few games of this series, is the health of Yanni Hakanpää. And that feels weird to say because I don't think Yanni Hakanpää is going to have an enormous impact or be the reason the Stars win this series. But the lack of trust in Nils Lundkvist has obviously stood out over the last week. They have been essentially running a 5-man defensive group. You cannot get away with that against the Golden Knights. They are way too talented. They have way too much experience. They have too much pedigree in order to be a very good Vegas team, a very deep Vegas team. Frankly, their depth is what gave the Stars fits last year and kind of did them in. On one hand, they do have home ice advantage, which will be huge. Of course, they had to play the first 2 games on the road against Vegas last year. They should have won one of them in game 2 or game 1, whatever it was. They had a chance to win both, to be completely honest. How does that factor in to this season? You have game 7 on home ice. I could easily see this series going 7 games. I really could. And who is going to be able to last? It feels like whoever is going to be able to land that last punch will win this series. And frankly, it seems to be a coin flip. The Stars opened up as a favorite, but for a 1-8 seed matchup, it really is a coin flip. I could see it going either way. And to be honest, it feels like whoever wins this series could represent the Western Conference in the Stanley Cup final. I think if Vegas wins this round, it just feels inevitable that they're going to make it to the Western Conference finals because they've been there before. They have the experience. If they get better net minding than they have over the last month, because Adin Hill posted one of the best save percentages in postseason history a year ago. He was phenomenal, and he has not quite found that form as of late. If Adin Hill or Logan Thompson finds a way to play out of their mind, the Knights are going to be a very dangerous team. And unfortunately, with the series beginning on Monday, it does allow Vegas a few more days off to, of course, recuperate, recover, and get as healthy as possible. Mark Stone, of course, should be back for game 1. Alex Pietrangelo has missed the last few weeks or so as well. What is his availability going to look like? So there are a lot of factors at play here within this series, but I think this is a great time for the Stars to take on Vegas. Of course, I don't believe it's the easier matchup by any stretch of the imagination. I wanted to play the Los Angeles Kings, but now the cards are dealt, and you have to figure out a way to take down what could be a monster, because Vegas did it last year, but can they do it again? They've played a lot of hockey recently. They haven't played their best hockey as of yet. They're not coming in with a ton of great form. They've stumbled for the majority of the season. But can they turn it on? Can they flip the switch? Can they do that when it really matters against a Dallas team that is much deeper? A Dallas team that is much better, much suited and built for the type of series we are expecting between the Stars and Knights. I'm giddy about it. Cannot wait to see how the Stars get underway. Just some information for you, game times and such. Of course, game one on Monday night, April the 22nd, a 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time puck drop, which will probably be around 9 because we all know that is a complete lie. Some late night games once again in this series, so just be prepared for that. Game 2 at the AAC will be on Wednesday, 8:30 puck drop for that one. And then currently game 3 is scheduled on the 27th. So a couple of extra days for travel in Vegas at T-Mobile Arena. It's a 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time puck drop for game 3. Game 4 is on the 29th. And then if necessary, you got game 5 on May 1st, game 6 on May 3rd, and game 7 on May 5th. We'll cross that road when it comes. No official game times for game 4 through 7 as of yet. So those are the schedule. That is the schedule for this first round series between the Stars and Vegas Golden Knights. Very, very intriguing stuff, especially the way the regular season wrapped up last night. It looked like both teams were trying to tank. I was watching the Vegas game against Anaheim. After they went down by 2, they made a business decision. They were not trying to win that game. LA almost lost to Chicago, but they tied it late on a power play and ended up winning in overtime. And having the best player in the world, which the Edmonton Oilers do, causes you to want to take on a team that has 820 goal scorers, which I don't necessarily agree with. I could see any other year teams wanting to take on the Dallas Stars. It just doesn't feel that way this season. It doesn't feel like this is the club that you would want to face. But to each its own. And I'm going to pose that question to Chris Golick over at Locked On VGK as well. So be on the lookout once again for our official Stars Golden Knights preview on Monday. That will be a banger for sure. Cannot wait to talk to him about this first round matchup. All right, let's segue into the top 10 players in this series. I did a list. The best players, the top 10 between the Vegas Golden Knights and Dallas Stars. Would love to hear your thoughts on it, what you agree with. Do I have somebody too low, too high? Please let me know, and we'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Policy Genius. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts are on hand to help talk you through it. Your work-life insurance policy may not offer you enough protection for your family's needs. Even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. Policy Genius gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team. So check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL. Alrighty, my top 10 best players in this series between the Dallas Stars and Vegas Golden Knights. I figured it would be fun to just write down what I think are the best players in this series and see how it shapes out, because maybe one team has more players in the top 10, which could maybe foreshadow what could happen in this series. So I'll begin rather quickly here. I'm going to lay out my top 10 for you real quick and then give my thoughts on some of the specific players. Number 1, Miro Heiskanen. Number 2, Jack Eichel. 3, I have Rope Hintz. 4, Jason Robertson. 5, Jonathan Marchessault. 6, Wyatt Johnston. 7, Mark Stone. 8, Noah Hanifin. And then I have Jake Ottinger and Aiden Hill to wrap up the top 10. And number 10 could be Hill or Logan Thompson. That is a question for the Golden Knights. Who are they going to start in game 1 of this series? I think Miro Heiskanen is just the best player on the sheet on most nights. And the way he elevates his play in the Stanley Cup playoffs is second to none. I want to say his 45 points in 63 career playoff games. Of course, he leads the Stars in time on ice this season with just over 27 minutes. He's on the power play. He's a menace at 5-on-5. He doesn't get as much time on the PK this season, but I could see him easily joining the PK here in the playoffs as well. And I just feel like he is the number 1 overall player in this series who will be going up against the Jack Eichels of the world and Jonathan Marchessault. Really, 2 through 5, I think you can nitpick certain spots. You could have Marchessault ahead of Robo or Rope if you would like. Marchessault is really, really intriguing. He's a Stars killer. He scored 42 goals this season. He has been really, really good for the Vegas Golden Knights, and frankly, just one of the few guys that has stayed healthy throughout the season. Jack Eichel is a phenomenal two-way player. I mean, a top 5 center iceman in today's game. He continues to take his game to the next level, and we saw it last year in the postseason. He had a flair for the big moments. He was able to cash in. Rope Hintz, of course, he hits 30 goals once again in his career, the 3rd straight season. He had an incredible postseason run a year ago. I want to say he was the 3rd highest scorer in the postseason, and he didn't even get to play, of course, an extra round. Robertson hasn't had the flashes that he did last year, but he's been really solid. I mean, he's the leading point scorer for the Stars this year. 80 points. I just feel like he's going to be able to find his spots. He's going to find a way to produce. And the Knights are going to try to take him out of the game plan, as a lot of teams did last year. Can Robo fight through it and get the job done? Wyatt Johnston, of course, has already had his coming out party this season, but can he do it now in a huge, huge spot? Can he do it now when the Stars really need him to be fantastic? And that's a lot of pressure to put on a 20-year-old. I understand that. There are maybe a few other players that you would rather look to get the job done, but if Wyatt Johnston can be Wyatt Johnston, oh my goodness, the Stars team is going to be really, really good, and they're going to be very, very tough to beat since he's on the 3rd line, right? I put quotations on that. The 3rd line with Jamie Benn and Logan Stankoven. I will throw some honorable mentions out there. Thomas Harley, Shea Theodore is a wonderful defenseman for Vegas. Carlson as well. Cannot forget about him. He scored 30 this year, 59 points in 69 games. An excellent two-way player. And then you have Joe Pavelski as well. I'll throw in there. Can't forget about old Joe. I put Otter in there just because goaltending is so important. Of course, you can't win in the Stanley Cup playoffs without a netminder that's at least playing above average. And Ottinger has been phenomenal as of late. Since March 1st, Ottinger has a 10-1 record, 941 save percentage, and 1.54 goals against average. Look, all of that gets zeroed out in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but he is rounding into form. He was also a bit banged up in the series last year. He was not himself, you could tell. A fully healthy Jake Ottinger, and for the most part, Dallas Stars is going to be a really, really tough team to beat. And Aiden Hill / Logan Thompson, they have very similar numbers this year. Who is Butch Cassidy going to roll with? Maybe you'll see them switch it up from game to game. I put Aiden Hill in there just because of his postseason last year. I mean, he was fantastic. He was fantastic in the series against Dallas, and he was just phenomenal in general throughout the entirety of the postseason. So those are my top 10 best players in this series. It's 5-5. 5 stars, 5 nights. I think it is really, really even. And Mark Stone could be the X factor in this series. Mark Stone is so good. He is so, so good. And he can be forgot about because of the injury. And we can all sit here and complain and moan about Vegas and how they manipulate the cap. But hey, every team should do it. And the Stars used it to their advantage. They put Dodonov on the LTIR in order to be able to bring up Logan Stankoven. And you can't falter the VGK for using it to their advantage. And they got somebody like Noah Hanifin. They got somebody like Tomas Hertl who can really, really provide some depth. And props to them. Props to them for using it to their advantage. And Mark Stone, their captain, he's just such a leader on the Golden Knights. And I'm so fascinated by just the two captains in general in this series. Jamie Benn versus Mark Stone. Jamie Benn did not have his finest moment last postseason. Can he step up? Can he step up? Can he lead this team past the Knights in the first round? And maybe Jamie Benn should be in my top 10 list based off what he's done here over the last month. Another phenomenal season. Can he have an impact every single night? What can we get out of Jamie Benn? If you get a Jamie Benn that is engaged, intimidating, the prototypical power forward that we've seen for years, especially come playoff time where he seems to take it up a notch, I have a hard time believing Vegas can beat that version of the Dallas Stars. And it's going to be a hard task to do. It's going to be hard, but I think the Stars are in a great shape right now. They're going to be fully healthy at this time too. That's another argument about playing the VGK here now. You're probably going to go through some injuries down the line, and I think it's a good matchup for the Stars. I really do. And then I'm leaning like 55-45 on Dallas, just because Stars are much better than a season ago. And they shouldn't even have got to 6 games in that series, to be completely honest, but they did will themselves back to make it interesting. If they play like we've seen over the last month, they're going to have a great shot. Plain and simple. And it can be unfair. It can be unfair that this is the team that the Stars draw for winning the Western Conference. But I made that note so many times throughout the season. How many times I talked about Vancouver, like, oh, do you really want to win the 1 seed and have to play the Vegas Golden Knights? And well, here it is. The Stars are now a part of that conversation, and the NHL has to be thrilled. The NHL has to be thrilled with this with this matchup. I mean, it's just so good. Pete DeBoer versus his old club. Hanifin, Tanev, Pavelski, Hertl, the two teams that met in the Western Conference Finals last year. Oh, just great stuff all the way around. All right, let's just jump into an overall an overall outlook on the Stanley Cup playoffs in general. Some great first round matchups. Just give my thoughts and feelings on some of the first round matchups as well. Maybe I'll give you some predictions, but not the Stars one. Okay, not the Stars. I'm going to save that. I need to get my thoughts in order before I make an official prediction, which you can hear on Monday. Special crossover edition with Locked On VGK. All righty, let's geek out about the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Monopoly Go. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime, the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure how you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep. You lift your head up high and you say to yourself, time to get back in the game. Pull off some bank heights and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. And of course, I'm talking about the smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go. It lets you compete with your friends to get the most richest and biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone anytime with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. You can play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. You can also charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb up the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, download Monopoly Go. It's now free on the App Store and Google Play. So the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs gets underway tomorrow night. Some great series, some great matchups on hand. And beginning with the Western Conference, you have Colorado and Winnipeg. I don't see how Winnipeg wins the series. I don't. And I guess I'm a hater of the Winnipeg Jets, and I'm okay with having that label. I'm okay with it. Winnipeg can't stop Colorado. There's just no way. There's no way. The Avs are way too good. Nathan McKinnon in the playoff is a whole nother animal, as if he's not already a whole nother animal in general. He is going to be completely infuriated after the first round exit last season. I just don't see a way that Winnipeg defeats the Colorado Avalanche. And Winnipeg's good, okay? They're good. I'm not trying to knock them, but I like Colorado in that series. Vancouver and Nashville's interesting. I feel like that one could get a little bit shaky. That is one I could see going 7, but Vancouver ends up prevailing just because they're the better team. But just with Vancouver kind of being in the fight for the first time as a young core, maybe that gives them a little bit of the hibba-jibbies, so to speak, and Nashville can push it to 7. Look, Nashville's one of the hottest teams coming into the postseason. They have some great veterans like EOC. They have Forsberg. They have O'Reilly that have been there before. I think they could give Vancouver fits, but I have Vancouver in that one. The Oilers and Kings, that's Oilers all day. LA just isn't good enough. They just aren't good enough. And the best player in the world, along with Draisaitl, I think will be able to dispatch the Kings pretty quickly. Edmonton's interesting. It's also the first series, I want to say, since Edmonton and Dallas played each other 3 years in a row back in the late 90s. Of course, the Stars took all 3 of those matchups in the late 90s. And Edmonton has that chance. This is the 3rd year in a row that the Oilers and Kings are facing off against each other. On the other side of the bracket, you have the Battle of Florida. You got the Panthers and Lightning. I give the edge to Florida, even though Tampa's a scary team. Once again, I like Florida in that series. Boston, Toronto's interesting. I think Toronto's the better team. And Boston just feels like they are going to figure it out to win this series, not only because Toronto, of course, their postseason history as of late has not been great. I just feel like Boston hasn't been talked about. And this would be the year they go far. They get bounced in the first round last year, the best series ever, or the best regular season in NHL history. They were phenomenal. They were just kicking everybody's butts. It just feels like that's one of those ones I get the hunch that, oh, this would be the year Boston wins. Like, this would be the year the Boston gets to the Stanley Cup final because no one's talking about them. So I got Boston in that series. New York Caps should not be in this. Caps should not be in this. But I'll give Washington a lot of props. They grinded to get in. New York should win that one pretty handedly. I really like Carolina too, over the Islanders. The Capitals and Islanders just kind of got in on a whim. I will say I like Carolina coming out of the East this year. Adding Jake Gunstall just seems like it did a lot for them. And Carolina, year after year, has had great seasons, but hasn't really translated to postseason success, or at least a real deep run. And I think this is a year they kind of pop. They kind of break through that barrier, whatever that barrier is for them. So I like Carolina coming out of the Eastern Conference. That's just what I'm kind of feeling. The Carolina Hurricanes. And there's a lot to like with the West too. The Stars are going to have a rough path either way. If they get through Vegas, they may have to take on Colorado, and that is going to be no cakewalk. And then of course you may get Edmonton, you may get Vancouver, but hey, that's why you have to play the games. You never know. I'm sitting here, and it's not always the best teams win. There can be injuries, there can be issues, there can be collapses. We see it all the time. But one thing I know for certain is the first round is going to have fireworks. It is going to be insane. It usually is. It's the best part of the sport, and it's the best part of the postseason. And it's the best part of the postseason in general. Oh, wow. Dallas Stars versus the Vegas Golden Knights. They meet again. Game 1 begins on Monday night, 8:30 puck drop, another late one. Both of those games are on home ice. Games 1 and 2, of course, before it flips to games 3 and 4 in Vegas. Puck drop will probably be around 8:45, by the way. Those are usually a lie. The first 2 games will be held on ESPN, and game 3 is on TBS. We still don't know a game time or coverage for game 4. Of course, that will start to come out as the series progresses. But a few days to chew on this one, and I'll have my official predictions for you on Monday. Special crossover edition with Locked On VGK. So be on the lookout for that. Plan to do crossover editions kind of before every series, depending on how far the Stars go. And hopefully it lasts past the first round, excuse me. And Dallas can do some damage. But this is going to be a big series. Would love to hear your thoughts. If you want to drop your predictions in the comment section below, please do that as well. Be sure to like, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, never miss an episode. Hop on board the bandwagon for the Stanley Cup playoffs. I appreciate all of you out there, all of you Stars fans that listen to me every day. All of you that have popped on over the last month or so, just in and out, just kind of getting the nitty-gritty details over the last few months about this Stars team. A pleasure to be with you. Cannot wait to cover this playoff run. Great content coming your way. Be sure to follow Locked On Stars on Twitter. You can follow me at JoeyTheJet19. A lot of fun is on the horizon here in the next few weeks or so, and hopefully the next month. Hopefully this lasts a while. And this is the time of year we've all been waiting for about a month now. And it's finally here. And Dallas Stars, Vegas Golden Knights, a Western Conference final rematch from a year ago. Cannot wait. Alrighty, that does it for today's Friday episode of Locked On Stars. Enjoy your weekend. Get in the right mental state. We're not going to be too high. We're not going to be too low. We have to prepare. for the Stanley Cup playoffs that begin Monday. Cannot wait. Be ready. Special crossover edition once again on Monday. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. So long, Stars fans.